almost everything in life, in business, in your situation, in all of it, it's not static. Like, we're able to change what we're doing, what we're up to, who we are, right? We can evolve into a totally different person if we choose to. And so it's important to realize that there can always be change. Today we're going to talk about my kind of mantra in life, which is living shifted. And the definition for me is to live a wholly successful life in all tenets of life, not just business for the sake of finance and stuff like that, but in my career, in financial, in a romantic relationship, in my social relationships. What am I doing to give back? And my personal development and health, right? All of these different things. How can I push those all to a 10 in my life? And, how do we really get there? And how do we shift and change our life when maybe we're not happy or we don't feel like we're operating at a 9 or a 10? And what does that look like? And it's going to be hard work, but it's worth it. I'm Stephen Taylor. This is WeeklyST. It's a video series on my version of living a wholly successful life in everything that I do. For the last 10 years, I've been building a couple $1 million cybersecurity IT business here in Chicagoland, and I shift my life in different ways. These are my thoughts and feelings. If you enjoy it, hit that like and subscribe button. She had asked the question of okay, well, when did this start for you? This idea of, shifting or making these big changes. And it was crazy because I thought I had my pulse on it, or I kind of had a finger on it. I was like, oh, when I started the business, that was a pretty robust change, and I dove in and I just shifted, right? And I changed my life. And it was not an easy decision. Nothing ever is. And I agonized over, I had to quit a real job where I was making real money to start a business. And I had no money and no clients and no revenue. And nonetheless, I did it. But I agonized about that change and that shift for about 3 months. But I started to go back further, and it was crazy because I started to find a lot of different things in life where I was like, yeah, you could call that a shift too. And probably one of the earliest that I remember was college, right? I went to college like most of us do, and I went to school for computer engineering, which I was passionate about and everything else. But what I found was college wasn't fast enough for me. Even though I was in Milwaukee School of Engineering, a very fast-paced school. They do 3 12-week trimesters, or they did at the time. So a very fast pace of the schooling, but they were leading you in your freshman year with Calculus 101, 102, 103, right, or whatever it was, and a lot of gen ed classes, and then some technology classes, but not anything that I didn't already know. And I was already self-learning and teaching myself and learning by doing and all this kind of stuff. And so college I guess I couldn't keep up, or college couldn't keep up with me, so to speak. And so I agonized again about that decision for a while. I think I was mostly through the second trimester, and then I decided, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm going to go do something else. And I was, even at that age, I was super excited to work and go do things and not just sit in class all day. It was pseudo an easy decision for me, right? I didn't have any family to disappoint or anybody else to be like, well, you shouldn't do that. I was able to really make that decision for myself. But nonetheless, I think that's a big decision for most people, right? Whether to go, not to go, but to quit, right? And I made the decision at the time for myself. And I think that's the most important thing in all of this, right? Self-awareness, even at a young age, to look at some of that stuff. I feel like I've done a lot more of that work more so lately with self-awareness and, paying attention and really thinking things through. But it turns out, even at a younger age, I was like, you know what, this isn't for me, and let's move on. And thankfully, in a way, I didn't have the family pressure, and I didn't believe in the societal pressure of it. I'm plenty of people who drop out of college and do great things. I don't care, right? But I didn't have those other, third party influence in my life at the time to tell me otherwise. And so I was able to, I feel, make a quicker, easier decision. And again, I think that is super important, right? You've got to really look at it for yourself and decide, this is what I want to do. And listen, if you're married, if you're in a relationship, if you have family that you need to take care of, whatever it might be, you have to take those things into account, right? But at least knowing full well, hey, this is really what I want to do, then maybe you're willing to make a sacrifice or work with your partner on that and say, now's not the right time, or let's do this first, or okay, no, they're willing to commit and you guys do that together, right? But you've really got to look at yourself and what you want and what speaks to you. Because as we all know, at the end of life, the biggest thing that people are left with is the regret of the things that they didn't do, right? People aren't looking back on their life going, man, I shouldn't have tried that crazy thing, or I, wish I wouldn't have tried jumping out of the plane or whatever it was. They look back and they go, I wish I would have, asked that woman out. I wish I would have, tried to fly international. I wish I would have, taken that crazy career switch and quit my job, right? Whatever it might have been. For me, it's a mantra, right? I picked up a nickname as a kid and it stuck, and then I've kind of held on to it because to me, it speaks to me, right? Living shifted. And to me, what it means, the definition is broad, and it's broad so that anybody could use it, but their specific version of it, is going to be adapting. It's going to be changing. It's going to be fluid, right? Because I believe that we're not meant to live the same life for 50 years. We're more dynamic. The world is dynamic. We change and things change. And so, I think your vision as it sits today may evolve, may completely change, right? Flexibility, I think, is an important part of that. So, who I was 10 years ago and what I thought I was starting and doing and all that stuff is totally different than it is today. And I think in another 5 years, it'll change in its own way. Whether that is an evolution of what was already there or a total change, I don't know. But that's part of the excitement and the fun of it too, right? In business, you're either growing or you're dying, right? I'm all about community, impact, team, culture, all of those things. But at the end of the day, if we're not making money and we're not growing, we're not a business, right? We will be extinct on that path. And so you've always got to be growing, which means you've always got to be evolving, and the world is always changing, and our industry is always changing. So I think we're in a space where we're always evolving, we're always changing, we're always pushing forward. And I think that's super important for any business, especially us being in technology. Almost everything in life, in business, in your situation, in all of it, it's not static. Like, we're able to change what we're doing, what we're up to, who we are, right? We can evolve into a totally different person if we choose to. And so it's important to realize that there can always be change. And the more comfortable you are with it, the more willing to grow and stretch yourself you are, the better in a way, right? Because complacency ends up in this challenging place of like, everything's all right, but I just don't feel fulfilled, or I don't feel passionate about anything, and I'm just kind of coasting through life. We need that challenge. We need the both sides of the good and the bad. The roller coaster, the ups and downs of life actually is what helps us feel most alive, but we have to be willing to take the negative and the challenge with that too. But it's not static. We're able to change anything at any point in time. I don't think there's any boundary. I have seen some people completely shift their life in the drastic, most interesting ways that you never would have imagined, right? And it comes with challenge, right? There's a hell of a lot of challenge. But they are living their dream, right? They are super passionate. They're on fire about everything they're doing, but they completely uprooted whatever it was that they were doing and totally shifted it. And so I'm not there yet, right? I still have some roots and some grounding, I guess. But it's exciting, right, to see and witness other people do it. But I think it's almost, what is the work and the challenge and the mountain that you're willing to climb? Because that's also going to be the view that you get at the top, right? If you're willing to make a shift and a change here, great, and you're going to get a better view. But if you're willing to do it at this level, then you're going to see even more results, but also have to face so much more challenge. And everything in life comes with challenge anyway, right? So you might as well just sign up for it. You might as well get comfortable with it, get used to it, right? We talked about it in the video about, business and is it time to sell and all that kind of stuff. I think often we look at, the grass is always greener. If I sell my business, it'll be easy and I'll just get a big check and I can go live in the beach. But is that really going to give you a life of fulfillment and challenge and growth and give you new skills and make you feel accomplished and fulfilled? No, right? Conversely, continuing and staying with your business and building and getting to a new level and growing and getting new, talents and challenging yourself will get you to a place where then you're on a different mountain with a better view, and you'll feel so much more accomplished and fulfilled in the work that you're doing because you made it through all those challenging periods in life versus, the same old for 10 to 30 years. Our society sells this idea, and I think we are born into that, and then we think like, okay, I'm going to start a business and then I'm going to make it successful and then it's going to be easy, right? And that probably ties into the time to sell thing, right? It's like you thought you were going to magically get to this place where it just all of a sudden it's easy. And it's like, no, that's not possible. And so we're not lied to, but like, we're sold on this idea of easy in everything that we do. And we've grown accustomed to it. I don't feel like cooking dinner tonight. I'm just going to, have it delivered, right? But how good do we feel about ourselves and how happy are we truly when we, wolf down the meal and throw out the takeout boxes? Do you feel accomplished? Do you feel passionate about the meal that you made? Do you feel, fulfilled other than stuffed to the gills? I'd argue not, right? Conversely, if you found a new recipe to make and you went to the store and gathered all the goods and you come home and you're able to create this and build something, right? And have passion for it. And then you get to enjoy the rewards of eating it, right? How much then more so would you feel fulfillment and passion and all those kind of things, right? But it's not easy and you have to do the dishes. There's so many options in life, it leads to indecision, right? You even look at, where do I want to travel to? I want to go on vacation, right? And maybe you have a rubric that says, I want to do warm weather or I want to do cold weather, whatever. That limits some of the options, but there's still a plethora of options. It's like the buffet. What am I going to have, right? And I think it leads to indecision, right? And so sometimes, this is where I like the people who just try new things all the time, right? Get a flavor, try a few different things, and you don't have to necessarily commit. Maybe you recognize, I don't want to live in the area that I've lived in for the last 30 years of my life. I want to move. Well, you don't have to just pick one place. Maybe you try 3 places. And because of things like Airbnb and all these, again, different variety and different options, you have the ability to try things for a month or 3 months or 6 months at a time without buying a property, without signing a full-on lease and everything else. And so it can create a ton of opportunity, but that can also keep us held back and indecisive because we're waiting for the perfect decision, the perfect moment. Those things never come. You have to just go and try and see what works and see what fits, because otherwise you'll be stuck, again, waiting for that perfect opportunity or waiting for the, all the things to line up. They won't. Like, life just doesn't happen that way. It's going to be imperfect. Keep going. One of my favorite questions to ask people is, if the money didn't matter, what would you be doing, right? And it opens up a discussion where, instead of thinking about my job as a job solely for the focus of I've got to pay bills, if I could do anything in the world, what would it really be? And surprisingly, the answer is often something drastically different than what that person's doing. It opens up a wonderful discussion. So if the money didn't matter, what would you be doing?